Greetings everybody, welcome back to Media Moogle. I am Ole Gamer Joe as always. Today we're taking a look at the wild action platforming shooter Gun Crazy that comes from the good folks at Radaleka Games. It was developed by Ritual Games. It is now available on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 console. It will be available on the Nintendo Switch as of May 1st, 2020, so not a long wait there. And boy, is this a really great action arcade shooting game that absolutely nails it in so many regards that it makes it a real shame that it runs out of ammo so quickly. Gun Crazy features 4 levels broken up into small sections. Most of these sections include a sub-boss that you'll have to take out, and just like some of the great games that it tries to emulate, the controls are pretty simple throughout. You have a dodge attack, and you have a shoot attack, and you can double jump as well. That's really all there is to it. It all feels really responsive and quite good, and I loved how the screen would just be littered with nonsense, coins that flow into you as you destroy enemies, which will contribute to your high score, and it all feels really fluid, fast, and smooth. I enjoyed the overall feel of this game quite a bit. But just because it feels good and it's easy enough to get into doesn't make it an easy game. In fact, this is a rather challenging experience despite its short length, and it's going to take a while to master the enemy patterns that are thrown at you, particularly because some of these boss encounters are extremely difficult and will be downright cheap in my opinion. There's also one level in particular where you're hovering across the highway of some sort on your police car, and it's just impossible to reach certain enemies with your gun if you don't have some kind of power-up. Thankfully, however, Gun Crazy does allow for a close melee attack with your character striking enemies, and that's actually pretty cool and satisfying, though in that level in particular, and some of the other areas of this game, it did result in me taking some unnecessary damage that I didn't feel was earned by the enemy. You also have a limited amount of credits that you can continue with in Gun Crazy, and there are no difficulty options that I saw at least, so you're going to have to master this game if you do want to complete it. There are no shortcuts, and there's no accessibility, which is a little bit of a bummer for those of us that like to play games more casually, but I can kind of see where the developer was coming from with this. After all, Gunstar Heroes was a pretty short game back in the day. That's a game that certainly this game seems to be modeled after in a lot of different ways, including its art style, and because of its difficulty, that does encourage you to play it a little bit more and to actually see it through to the end. You might have noticed that normally I kick off a Media Moogle review talking about the story and background on these characters. This is a universe that is begging for one, but there is absolutely no story whatsoever in Gun Crazy, which I, quite frankly, think is a little crazy. I'm not saying this is a game that needs a huge storyline or even one to the size of, say, a Mega Man style game, but it could have used a little bit of a backdrop and gave a little context for this character that you're playing as. It's a cool world and it's a really neat looking fun character, but they do absolutely nothing with it, and that's a little bit disappointing. Story gripes aside, the reality is that this is a really fun game to play. I had a blast going through these levels, collecting different power-ups and checking out all of the different guns. These guns are limited in ammo, so you'll want to use them sparingly, but the majority of your gameplay will best be suited to running forward, I found as I played it more and more. There are certain areas where you won't be able to do that, but for a lot of these levels, that is the quickest and most successful route that I found. I did find myself ultimately getting better each time that I played through the game and progressing closer and closer to the end point. This is clearly a very talented developer that knows how to make a damn good action-packed arcade shooter. And you could look at this as either a negative or a positive, but it left me wanting more of it. I wanted more to the backdrop of this setting, I wanted more levels, and I just wanted more of everything, more power-ups. It was all really inviting, and it was absolutely so much fun to play that it's really disappointing that the fun ends so soon. However, being mindful to the fact that this is obviously a small development team, and these games are typically not long, I am willing to forgive that because there is so much fun to actually be had in this game, and the graphical style is just outstanding. It really harkens back to the aforementioned Gunstar Heroes in a lot of ways, feels really straight out of a Genesis in many areas. I love the look of this game. Some of the bosses are huge pixely beasts that are fun to look at and fun to blast away at, even though they are a little bit cheap, and the retro 16-bit soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. Every track fits the mood perfectly, has you on the edge of your seat. And not to harp on the fact that this game is short, but man, is this just a title that does so many things so well that it really is disappointing that you can't have more of it. And that sounds selfish, but that's just where I stand on this title. I ultimately walked away from Gun Crazy hoping for more from the developer in the future. I can't wait to see what they cook up next because this is a genre that they clearly belong in. Yet when I factor the price point of this game, which is only $4.99, I can't help but still recommend Gun Crazy because it does fill that void of nostalgia in me for this genre of games that I love so much. For those of you that are interested, I played the PlayStation 4 version. This is one of the easiest platinum trophies I've ever earned. I'm not even sure exactly how I did it, but it was unlocked within the first 5 minutes or so of gameplay. And for you folks that don't like screen shake in your games, you'll be happy to know that you can turn that option off. Gun Crazy is not a perfect game. It makes plenty of mistakes along the way, but it's also a really good game at the same time. I do wish there were more of it to experience, and I hope for more in the future. As it stands, Gun Crazy is a good arcade adrenaline action-packed shooter that I had a lot of fun with. It is absolutely worth the time. I just wish it had taken more of it. For more on Gun Crazy and all of our other content, head on over to MediaMoogle.net where we have some wonderful podcasts like I Dream of Indie and the Gamer Joe radio show. And if you have enjoyed our video content today, please do hit the subscribe button below and help us bring a voice to the voiceless. If you really love us, you can head on over to patreon.com/MediaMoogle where we have some great tiers of content for you to check out, or you are more than welcome to drop us a donation in the description below. Thank you so much for watching.